This is TNTV, the UK's most censored media network.
German anti-Semitism chief tells Jews your fears over influx of Muslim Arab refugees is, quote, legitimate. Now this is out of Breitbart, ladies and gentlemen. The German government's first special envoy to the Jewish community has warned that Jews' fear over the influx of Muslim and Arab refugees is legitimate. Dr. Felix Klein also counselled German Jewish men to exercise caution before appearing in public spaces wearing the traditional kippah headpiece. And do you know why that is? Because there's an incredible amount of attacks on Jewish people from African and Middle Eastern migrants. Okay, now we're not against the average African or Middle Eastern migrant. Okay, but when the influx of hate speech and indeed physical attacks happen upon people for their beliefs, okay, we don't actually hate anybody, whether you're Muslim or whatever race or religion or ideology you choose to follow. That's your preference, okay? But when it starts to impede on others, especially when they've had a culture and a civilization for hundreds of years, and now you see things like the exponential change of Sweden forever, it's very worrying to the Swedish people that are left, okay? And that's just the reality. Dr. Klein chose an interview with the Times of Israel to reveal his concerns for Jews on the same day rallies took place across the country supporting Jewish people after a spat of shocking anti-Semite assaults. One such rally in Berlin ended early when angry counter-protesters shouted terrorists and spat at them. I mean, well, they were probably funded by George Soros. Don't we just see this when there's a pro-life rally or when there's, a pro-Trump rally or something good and wholesome? Okay, there's always people there to counter protesters that are the real revolutionaries, that are the real violent thugs. Okay, but then our media will say these right-wing people are the violent thugs, when really it's the left in so many cases. You just look at them, stopping people going into voting booths, demonising people because of their political preference. I mean, I don't like Labour, I don't like Jeremy Corbyn or Sadiq Khan, but if a lady or a man is going to have a Labour rally, I will stand there and debate statistics and facts with them. I won't spit on them and call them all the names under the sun, because that's what ruins free speech, okay? Because then that allows the other people to come in and say, right, because of this ruckus, because of the chaos that was caused, nobody's allowed to march and have their own free speech anymore, okay? Which is actually happening in the UK, okay? There are so many examples of Britain First and the EDL and other groups marching that are now illegal. Okay, and I get their far right or their right-wing parties, but we live in a free country, okay? As long as you're not being violent and as long as you're not calling to arms, you should be able to assemble and out your concerns, especially when those concerns are terror attacks and grooming gangs and acid attacks and female genital mutilation. I mean, those things are so paramount, so key. It's like protesting war, or it's like protesting something. It's like protesting something so big that it's legitimate, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, protest. I mean, the protests and the rallies, the protests, the marches against grooming gangs. I mean, that's paramount. That's needed, okay, to show other men out there what to do, to carry on the message that we're not going to lie down while our kids suffer the most horrific abuse, okay? And tens of thousands of UK children have already done that, and millions across the world, okay? And yes, there are articles saying UN peacekeepers roast children, but and obviously that's horrible, and we decry that as well, okay? We cover everything, but the point is when you have grooming gangs in your cities, okay, then there is something you can ultimately do about it. By taking to the streets en masse, by warning these people, by getting the police investigated. I mean, 33 police are investigated for the Rotherham or the Telford grooming gang. 33 police officers that had knowledge and basically allowed it to continue, probably supplied girls to the grooming gangs. And that's because there are corrupt people in every aspect. There's not saying they're all bad, because they're not. The majority are good. But there's good and bad everywhere, and that's reality. And we need to out the bad by identifying it's there. And that's just a fact, ladies and gentlemen. So that article is the first one today, and it's pretty bombshell, isn't it? If you like what we're doing here at TNTV News, please head on over to the description box of this video, where you can find a link to our Patreon site. £1 a month will get you a shout out on our live feed or YouTube video, plus a personal message.